Would you all please rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis.
Thanks everybody, good evening. I will formally declare the meeting open at exactly 5 p.m. So welcome everybody to the City of Perth 2022 Ordinary Council meeting for the month of March. Can I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Whadjuk Noongar people of Western Australia, and on behalf of all of us here tonight, pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. It is indeed a privilege to be standing on Whadjuk Noongar country. CEO, can I ask you to recite the prayer, please?
Almighty God, under whose providence we hold responsibility for this city, grant us wisdom to understand its present needs, foresight to anticipate its future growth, and grace to serve our fellow citizens with integrity and selfless devotion. And to thee be all blessing and glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. And welcome once again. Everyone, please note that tonight, in accordance with Council Policy 1.4, this meeting is being live streamed and the recording will be made available on the City's website following the meeting. We'll go through the attendance now, and in attendance tonight we have Councillor Sandy Angie, Councillor Brent Fleeton, Councillor Liam Gobbett, Councillor Rebecca Gordon and Councillor Victor Coe. In addition, I welcome officers, members of the public and any media in attendance. Apologies have been received from the Deputy Lord Mayor Di Bain, Councillor Catherine Leeser and Councillor Clyde Bevan. There are no councillors currently on an approved leave of absence, although that is an approved leave of absence, is it not? Or that's just apologies. That's apologies. Understood. Thank you. My mistake there. A leave of absence application, here we go, has been received from Councillor Gobbett for the period 2 May 2022 to 6 May 2022 inclusive. Can I ask at this point, do any other elected members have an application for a leave of absence? No? Okay, thank you. We move to announcements by... yes, sorry. So, mover please for Councillor Gobbett's application. Thanks, Councillor Coe. Seconder, Councillor Gordon. Vote on that, please. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Have a nice time, Councillor Gobbett, wherever you might be going. We move to the Lord Mayor's announcement. See how eager I am. There's a number of things to mention. I'll go as quickly as I can. Firstly, I just wanted to reiterate that I met with the Prime Minister 12 days ago, who confirmed that the city deal, the Perth City deal, is now worth $1.7 billion for our city. That's in infrastructure and investment projects in our city, which include ECU, the Rose Street refresh, which is well and truly underway, the Wacker overhaul, which includes a $25 million one-off capital contribution to the Wacker aquatic facility from the City of Perth, Perth Concert Hall refresh and the Swan River pedestrian bridge. You've heard the words game changer and a very, very significant landmark investment in our city, $1.7 billion, and that investment is already underway in our city. I wanted to acknowledge also all of our staff who continue to lead by example and are coming to work on a regular basis. Nobody should be shocked by that statement, I know, but in our community it's absolutely fabulous, and I want to thank CEO Michelle Reynolds and every member of the staff down, particularly those who operate out of this building, those who are external and obviously not operating indoors, slightly different arrangements in place. But I want to thank all of our staff for leading by example. And I note that in some sections of our local government community here in Perth, some local governments are actually closed. You can't enter their buildings. There is no one in there. And clearly, the example that we're looking for is the one that's being set here. And I want to thank everybody for coming to work, notwithstanding, of course, as we wait for more people to come back into our city with the passing, if you like, of the COVID peaks and then hopefully restrictions and mask mandates, etc. We have had a terrific response to our Bounce Back program. That's to assist those in our community, our ratepayers, small business, all sizes of business with the recovery process and managing the COVID pandemic at the moment. As I mentioned, the $5,000 quick grants that are available. I met with two recipients today, for example. 80 from Ohey WA, known to many of our elected members. She told me that she's going to use her grant to improve her website and develop a marketing strategy for her already very successful walking tour businesses and add fantastic vibrancy to the city. I note also that 80 said to me today, we are getting bookings from people who are travelling to Perth. So the wheels are in motion, and she's noticed that there is certainly increase in appetite for people to take the tours. That's excellent. Also met today from James from the Heritage Wine Bar on St George's Terrace, I think also very well known to everybody in the room. They're going to use their grant for social media and marketing services to be able to spread the word that they're open, that they're available and open for drinks after work or for lunch, etc., etc. Both businesses have said it's tougher, but they're being very resourceful and they're also showing a great deal of resilience. And so I commend them. So far, $30,000 has been approved to 12 businesses, and we're working through more applications as quickly as possible. But I'll remind everybody listening or here in the room today, the grants are available. You can apply for them, and the period for application has been extended, and it's perth.wa.gov.au/bounceback. I'm also excited to share that soon, together with the administration, we'll have details of the next phase or round of Bounce Back. But the first round, round one, has been very well accessed, and that's terrific. Also, as you know, part of that, there's been a great reaction to the free nighttime parking, weekend parking, 3 hours free in 3 of our best car parks. And so on weekends, for example, 3 hours at Pier Street, at His Majesty's and the Cultural Centre, and then free parking at night time. It's effectively free parking on the weekends in the city if you're using one of those car parks or moving your car to an on-street bay or any of the other bays at some point. So it is there to be taken advantage of. Can I thank our CEO and Councillor Bevan, along with Nathan Ahern, who's in the room today from the administration, who on Saturday, and Alan, where's Alan? Alan, thank you very much. Alan Mason, also with us. Sorry, Alan, that I missed you. Who, together with members of West Perth Local, the East Perth Community Group, Activate Perth, and the City of Perth Western residents, took a tour for our neighbourhood groups of some of the elements of our city. Some of them not necessarily top of mind, some of them a bit behind the scenes, but to point out some of the things that are happening in our city that aren't always immediately obvious to the public. I know that there was a terrific response and it was very well received. I thank those members, some of whom are here tonight from our community groups, for being on the trip and available. And I know that from social media posts and other commentary around it, they got a great deal out of it. And it's another sign and a further indication of our commitment to our neighbourhood groups. We believe in them and we know that they believe in us, and we appreciate that reciprocal respect. It is a very important part of what we do here at the City of Perth. A couple of things just finally. Council House tonight will be lit up, and tomorrow night from 7:30 for a special tribute to Shane Warne. The memorial service tomorrow, a special cricket M23 design in tribute to Shane Warne. And in accordance with protocol, there being a state funeral, obviously, the Australian national flag will be flown at half-mast all day tomorrow. That's the 30th of March, from all buildings and establishments occupied by WA government departments and affiliated agencies, of which we are one. One final bit of news. There's been an excellent reception and reaction to the Clean Machine, which launched with some fanfare during AFL Grand Final week last year. The anecdotal evidence and other correspondence into the city has been that people really enjoy it. They like the service. They contact us regularly. What has become particularly evident is people like to walk up to the operator of the clean machine and say, hello mate, how you going? There's a bit of a mess just around the corner, could you come with me? And the operator has been more than happy to oblige, and that is exactly what the clean machine is there for. As a result of the excellent service and the excellent reception that it has had, the City Admin have extended the service or expanded it to include more of Hay Street, not just the mall areas, more of Murray Street up to Milligan, but also including parts of the west end of both Hay and Murray Street, Wellington Street up towards the Perth Arena or the RAC Arena, and Rose Street. Already, of course, included is the city grid, if you like, which is from St George's Terrace across to Wellington Street, through Yagan Square and up James Street. Complements our existing 59 dedicated cleaning staff and operates 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's been really well received, it's been very positive, and certainly community appreciate our efforts with the cleaning that all of the staff, but particularly that the clean machine is providing. And very finally, Councillor Gordon's oldest son, William, is celebrating his what number birthday today, Rebecca? He's 4. Happy birthday. He's not here today though, is he? But Alexander is. He's getting into democracy very early, and Siobhan Rippington alongside me. Happy birthday to you, Siobhan, from all of us in the chamber, and many happy returns. No place Siobhan and William, for that matter, would rather have been than at a council meeting at the City of Perth. So with that, let's bat on. Item 5.1 is public questions. CEO, have any public questions been received?
Yes, Lord Mayor, questions have been received from both Danielle Davison and Mandy McAvoy in advance of the meeting.
All right, thank you, CEO. So before we commence public questions, I'd like to remind everyone that this time is available for asking questions only and is not for making statements or expressing personal opinions. In addition, no discussion of the questions or answers is to take place. So with that, I'll invite Danielle Davison to step forward. Danielle, if you could name and address, please, and away you go.
Sure. My name's Danielle Davison. I live at 32 Kingswell Road, Attadale, but I'm here representing the developer of item 11 tonight. Would you prefer I read both questions straight, one after the other, or one at a time?
I think one at a time, actually, yeah.
Sure. So is the city aware that the developer is replacing the now unfortunate tree with a replacement eucalyptus in the same location as the current tree, indicating that there are no concerns over future sight lines and view lines, and that the developer originally requested to replace the tree with a much bigger tree than the city staff has stipulated is preferred, for reasons that we understand of allowing the replacement tree to establish over a longer period?
CEO?
If I could pass that question on to our General Manager, Planning and Economic Development.
Thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor, yes, the city does understand that you wish to remove the tree and plant a replacement in approximately the same location, noting it'll be around 1.5 to 2 metres from the western boundary of the site. And also in the report, the city notes that the proposed replacement tree is of a size and species that the city's arborists are satisfied will establish suitably on the site.
Thank you, Dale. Next question, thanks.
Thanks. Is the city aware that there are now 2 independent arborist reports that note whilst the tree is alive, it may present a future safety risk to the public, and that by requiring the tree to stay, it may create an ongoing liability and insurance risk to both the developer and the city if the tree were to fall in the future, despite all best efforts to maintain it?
GM?
Thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor. So, yes, the city's report on this item does note that arborist comments were submitted and the city's own arborists agreed with those comments, that the existing tree would require extensive ongoing monitoring and maintenance and regular inspections to assess the regrowth and to evaluate its safety and amenity value going forward.
Thanks, Danielle. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here tonight. I'm going to invite Mandy McAvoy to step forward now. Mandy, same Same arrangements apply.
Certainly, it's Mandy McAvoy, 21 5 Delhi Street, West Perth, and firmly this is a personal question, not on behalf of West Perth Local, where I'm on the committee there. So, in the State Government's Waste Avoidance and Resource Recovery Strategy of 2030, all Perth and Peel councils must move to Food and Garden Organics, or FOGO, household collection by 2025. Currently, our multi-unit development in West Perth participates in the ongoing City of Perth collection trial, organics collection trial. However, is there any update on the moving to FOGO for residents?
Thank you, Mandy. Yes, CEO.
If I could invite the General Manager Infrastructure to respond to that question.
Thank you, through you, Lord Mayor. The City completed a food organics recovery trial at 4 multi-unit dwellings, or MUDs as we call them, in November of 21, to inform how FOGO best works in multi-unit developments and to determine resource and education requirements. A report is currently being finalised. That will be coming in May of this year. And based on that data collected, the trial will then inform our implementation strategy, and we'd expect to implement in the next 24 months.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Mandy.
Sustainability forms 2 goals in the draft Strategic Community Plan. In S2.1 of the most recent community consultation, the City stated, quote, leads by example in energy and water efficiency and waste minimisation, unquote. What is the City currently doing to promote waste minimisation versus waste collection? I'll sit down.
Thanks, Mandy. General Manager Infrastructure.
Thank you, through you, Lord Mayor. The City offers commercial customers, in particular restaurants and hotels, a food organic service as part of our city's waste minimisation strategy. In addition to this, the City offers 4 other recycling waste streams to residential and commercial customers. This includes garden organics, cardboard and paper, commingled recycling, and our container deposit scheme collections. The container deposit scheme collections occur at Aberdeen Street, at the parking area there, the facility there, as well as at a reverse vending machine on Rose Street. We've collected over 7 million containers, and these have been recycled and diverted from landfill. We're also investigating at the moment moving to an energy from waste solution, thereby diverting the red-lidded bin from landfill to complement the move to FOGO. And that will then in turn achieve our targets as per the state's waste strategy. Interesting to note, on Saturday the 21st of May, the City is running 2 free workshops at Perth City Farm about composting and Bakashi. Now, Bakashi is an eco-friendly composting system, so there's a small little bin that does amazing things and is designed to be used in your kitchen or in small living spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager, and thank you, Mandy, for your questions. We're going to move now to 5.2, deputations, and CEO, I believe we have some deputations tonight.
Yes, Lord Mayor, we have received 2 deputations in relation to item 17.2.
Thanks, CEO. So can I remind everybody there is a 5-minute limit for deputations. That has, not recently, but late last year changed. It's 5 minutes. I'm going to invite Dave Lee from Theory for Hair in West Perth to come forward, who is speaking for the notice of motion detailed in item 17.2. Dave, good evening.
Good evening. I'm Dave, 8 The Esplanade in Ballajora, speaking for West Perth. And I'm asking the City, would they be willing to extend the 3-hour parking for free on Saturdays on Hay Street and some of the side streets in West Perth up till the end of Hay and Thomas. At the moment on the street, it's empty on Saturdays. There often isn't a car parked. And I wonder how much the City of Perth makes out of parking in West Perth. And I would encourage them to make it free for 3 hours and encourage people to use the CAT service to come in and visit the city, as well as use the businesses in West Perth. In the 5 minutes, is Steve allowed to also speak?
That's a separate
5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's kind of everything I had anyway. But I would hope that we would be included and it would be extended to the end of Hay and Thomas.
Okay, Dave, thank you. Nice to see you. Stay there for just a moment. Some councillors may have questions in relation to your deputation. Just a reminder, if any councillors have questions of the admin in relation to the item, please reserve them until this item is tabled for debate. Are there any questions from any councillors? Councillor Fleeton.
Thanks. Hello, Dave. Thanks for coming in. Do you get this feedback direct from customers when they're parking?
I also drive their cars.
You drive
So
their cars?
not only do I get the feedback directly from the customers, sometimes customers come in and they're running late for their appointment to our business, which we're on the last shop on the street.
Yeah.
And they'll say, I don't know where to park. I thought it was free, but it's only 1 hour. And I say, give me your car.
Okay.
And I drive it around the block, and sometimes I drive 5, 6, 7 cars and park them on Ventnor Street, Richardson Terrace, Cook Street, any of the side streets that are free, but they're not all free. Some of them are paid parking.
Are there any other questions from any of the councillors? Councillor Angie.
Thanks, Dave. In relation to the notice of motion, it states that the extension of the free parking trial, so it would still be 1 hour free parking. So is your view, based on customer feedback, that the free parking needs to be longer than 1 hour on a Saturday? Is that insufficient on a Saturday?
I think 1 hour is great, but it's not generous, and it doesn't encourage people to come into the city and use the whole city. So they'll come to a small business, they might go to a cafe and have a coffee or a kebab. They can't really go to a bank now or a clothes shop because most of those in West Perth have closed down. What I'm trying to do is encourage 3 hour free parking and the use of the existing cat bus, which is often empty on a Saturday. It's often empty on a Monday. But if there was free parking on Saturday, people could come in. It's generous of the City of Perth. It might stop them going to Carnup or Claremont or Carousel, and they'd use the existing cat bus, go into the city, shop in the stores. They'd come to us and visit the other retailers in West Perth as well. It would also be a great opportunity to encourage new retailers into West Perth. We have a massive vacancy rate, and people don't want to lease or buy in West Perth. There's very little free parking, and most of the shops have closed down in the past 2 or 3 years. If there was free parking for 3 hours on a Saturday, it encourages people to come in and not go to a local shopping centre and use the city.
Dave, where do your staff park?
A lot of them pay for parking in the multi-storey car parks. On Saturdays, they take advantage of the free parking on the street or undercover parking where we are.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any further questions from anybody? Dave, thank you very much. We appreciate your deputation.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for your passion for our community and in particular West Perth. Can I invite Steve Wellard now? Ditto, Steve. Representing West Perth Local to come forward, who's speaking for the notice of motion detailed in item 17.2. Name and address, Steve, if you could.
Sorry, I had a co-person. Mandy was going to come up for this one as well.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah.
Stephen Wellard, I'm the president of West Perth Local and from 1303 Hay Street, West Perth.
And I'm Mandy McAvoy on the General Committee of West Perth Local, 21/5 Delhi Street, West Perth.
Okay, so thank you, Lord Mayor, councillors, CEO and senior managers. Today I'm speaking in support of the notion of motion 17.2, free parking on Hay Street in West Perth. A little bit of history. So in the mid-2000s, West Perth was reported as having the lowest commercial vacancy in the country and a village centre that was bustling with foot traffic during working hours, with a sophisticated and sometimes saucy nightlife topped off with AFL crowds, most weekends blending the footy with some great West Perth hospitality. When the suburb was first created in the 1800s, West Perth was supposed to be the Toorak of the West, and it was starting to live up to that original marketing pitch before things changed. Fast forward 15 years, a mining bust, the online shopping boom, and a pandemic. Our once great West Perth is seeing a growing exit of retail and hospitality businesses. Something must give before we lose the strip completely to our growing neighbours of Subi East, Leederville, and West Leederville. Look, we understand there are many factors, internal and external, that go into suburbs' decline, but there are two significant factors that stick out as being unique to West Perth when compared to our neighbouring suburbs. They are paid parking and the effect of the Perth parking levy. We get it that the Perth parking levy is a state government charge, and the city is in discussions with the government to advocate for a better deal, one that will level up the suburban playing field. We welcome that and look forward to positive change. However, we need urgent change to prevent the loss of more businesses and to attract potential new tenants away from the lure of our shining neighbourhood villages. It's for this reason that we fully support Councillor Angie's motion to reduce the cost of parking in West Perth. However, we feel it does not have a broad enough focus, as there's a number of streets in West Perth that still have paid parking on Saturdays, 8 a.m. through to 6 p.m, at a rate of $4.10 an hour. So that's effectively doubling the cost of a cup of coffee if you choose to have it in West Perth. How can we possibly compete with those neighbouring suburbs? The reality also is that our streets are almost completely empty of a weekend, so there's no revenue being made from the paid parking machines to offset the Perth parking levy. All it's really doing is maintaining a resident, worker and visitor mindset that West Perth is an expensive place to park, shop and socialise. West Perth Locals' request on motion 17.2 is to be amended to incorporate these changes effective immediately. Saturday paid parking to only be on Hay Street, so make Outram and Collins Streets Monday to Friday only. Saturday paid parking hours to be reduced to be 8 a.m. to midday. No charge anywhere for Saturday afternoons. Nobody's parking there anyway. Why are we trying to charge people? And thirdly, which is in line with the motion, the successful 1 hour free parking initiative be extended west along Hay Street to Thomas Road. Implementing these changes will just take West Perth Village to a comparable state as our nearest neighbours, as outlined by their own parking initiatives. If we look at Subiaco, across Thomas Road, it's free car parking on Hay Street. Okay, only like 50 metres away, it's free parking. They have 1 hour free on weekends, they have free parking weekends, they have free parking after 5 p.m. weekdays. Over in Leederville, it's 1 hour free across the district. They have a 3 hour free zone and they have a full car park that's free after 4 p.m. And in West Leederville, not as many initiatives, but the price of parking is only $2.90 an hour and they have a 30-minute free period. If we don't change now to win back retail and hospitality businesses, then we'll lose more once Subi East commences construction and marketing. We seem to be running out of time. Thank you for your consideration, and also thank you for allowing this deputation under the new rules for council meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mandy, would you like to?
No, nothing more to add.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Mandy. Just stay there if you don't mind, Steve. Does anybody? Yes, Councillor Angie.
Thank you, Steve and Mandy, for the deputation. Sorry, this is really far away. Just a couple of questions, just clarify your deputation. I was madly taking notes, I want to make sure I got it right. So you're saying you support the extension of the free parking initiative, which currently runs from Emerald Terrace to Outram, to Thomas Street. So you're saying you would like an extension of that Monday to Saturday or just on Saturdays?
We would like to see that 1 hour free period on Hay Street all the way up to Thomas Road.
So Monday through to Saturday?
Yes, Monday through
the
to
whole
Saturday.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the second question was, you note you said the extension of the 1 hour free parking to Outram Street and Collins Street and only have paid on Hay Street. So which area of Hay are you thinking would remain paid?
I feel that we could have Hay Street as paid parking, but with the 1 hour free option, okay? But the concern we have is that Outram and Collins Streets, when you turn off Hay, there's still paid parking all day Saturday for the first 1 or 2 blocks.
So it's confusing.
It's confusing. There's actually parking meters that have that on things like Cook Street, so it's very confusing. What we'd like to see is the Saturday paid requirement taken off Outram and Collins Streets straight away, just to make Hay Street the only place where you have to park on Saturdays.
Yep. And then when you talk about the reduction of the paid parking in West Perth from 8 a.m. to midday, so you're just saying across the board, entire West Perth, every kind of pocket and village of West Perth, that's reduced? Is that?
Correct, yeah. And at the moment, the only place where we have paid parking on Saturday is Hay Street and those first couple of blocks on Outram and Collins.
Yep.
Nobody's making any money whatsoever on Saturday afternoons. Businesses are just closing up because it makes no sense.
They did actually want to put paid parking in best down at Delhi Street where all the Watertown people park. I mean, that's completely free Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
But yeah, West Perth is really, that precinct there is really suffering.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from anybody? Okay, Steve, Mandy, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here tonight. We're going to move now to disclosures of interest. That's item 6 on the agenda. CEO, have we got any disclosures received tonight?
Yes, Lord Mayor, the following interests have been received. An impartiality interest from Councillor Angie in relation to item 11.1, as she attended a REWA breakfast and the developer was president of REWA at the time. An impartiality interest from the Lord Mayor in relation to item 12.2, as a person known to him, Paul Nash, is involved with the management of the event, and a financial interest from the Lord Mayor in relation to item 18.3, as Seven West Media is his employer and proponents have been in discussions with Seven West Media about supporting the event.
Thanks, CEO. Do any elected... yes, Councillor Angie.
Sorry, I thought you were going to move on. Yes, I've got a couple additional disclosures.
Yes.
So just in relation to 12.2, event sponsorship, Perth Garden Outdoor Living, a impartiality interest being that one of the contractors to the event, Paul Nash, is known to me, having met Paul last year and spoken to him several times over the last year. And then in relation to 17.2, being my notice of motion in relation to free parking on Hay Street, impartiality in that I own an office at 1329 Hay Street, West Perth, and I'm a customer of many of the cafes, lunch spots and other businesses on Hay Street, including Theory for Hair, and Dave is here tonight.
Okay, and can I say your hair looks terrific, Councillor Angie? Dave, that's as much for you as it is for Councillor Angie. Are there any further disclosures of interest from the floor? Oh, okay, thank you. Let's go to the confirmation of minutes. This is item 7. Would anyone like to move a motion to confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held 22 Feb? Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. Can I have a seconder, please? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Do any members oppose this motion? Motion being unopposed, I'll now declare it carried unanimously. Questions by members which due notice has been given. Item 8, there aren't any. Correspondence, the same. 10 petitions, none have been received. So we go now to reports. Before we move on to the reports, I'm moving a motion that the following items be carried en bloc. 14.1, monthly financial report, January 2022. 14.2, schedule of accounts paid, January 2022. And 16.1, audit reports 2021-22. Could I get a seconder for this? Sorry, yes, I'm proposing that. I'm moving the motion. So could I get a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Any members oppose? Motion being unopposed, will declare it carried unanimously. The recommendations of those items have now been passed en bloc in accordance with clause 9.2 of the City of Perth Standing Orders Local Law 2009, and the officer or committee recommendations have been adopted by council. So I'll now be moving on to the reports extracted for debate. Firstly, item 11, Planning and Economic Development Alliance reports. 11.1.20, Lot 3, Mounts Bay Road, Crawley, proposed amendments to an approved 9-level residential development. We note that there is an impartiality interest received by Councillor Angie. Is that correct, or is that left over? That is correct. So would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. The seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gobbett.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. So moving the officer's recommendation and just a few comments before we move on. So I've read the agenda paper, I've read what the community was saying with their feedback, listened to the discussion last week around this tree. Just a few comments on the process. I agree that we're not judging the entire DA again. There's not enough change to warrant that. The water tanks will be judged in terms of its the building application in the next stage. We just have to consider if the Nell setback is okay. The visual aspect of it seems to be addressed. The noise issue will be addressed in the next stage from a building permit point of view. But it comes to the tree itself, and there was some confusion last week, which I think was clarified after the agenda briefing session when the city emailed us a snapshot of the city arborists' review of the developer's arborist report. So I just want to read this for the record because it's why I've made the decision to support this tonight. And it states, Briefly, the severe lopping of this tree means that all the regrowth will not be able to attach to the main trunk appropriately, which means that the risk of branch failure is now significant and will be an ongoing concern for the remaining life of the tree. The regrowth seen is indeed healthy and shows the tree has good vitality, however, that's not relevant. As soon as the regrowth reaches a certain length and weight, it will simply fail under high wind conditions, and it goes on. I was confused last week because I was getting different information. It's been clarified. It's not an ideal scenario, so I'm happy to support it.
Thanks, Councillor Fleet. Councillor Angie, your microphone might be on. I just can't see the red part, but thank you. Councillor Gobbett, as a seconder.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Just briefly along the same lines as Councillor Fleet, and if we were to go down the path of enforcing the condition of the original development proposal and to require this tree remain, I think we can see, based on our own advice, that it will likely fail, and that we'll be in a similar position where we'll be without a tree, looking to provide one in some future years. So I think we can just cut out the middleman here and just say what is a better outcome long term, and that is to, in my view, to approve the removal of the tree, although, as Councillor Fleeton quite rightly said, not desirable. I think it is the better or the lesser of two evils here. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Does anybody wish to speak against this motion? No? So no. Any members oppose this motion? No. This motion being unopposed, I will now declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. We move to item 12, Community Development Alliance reports. And 12.1 is the events plan 2022-23. Would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thanks, Councillor Coe. Seconder, Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Coe.
I'm happy to move with the administration's recommendations.
Thanks, Councillor Coe. Councillor Fleeton.
Well put, Councillor Coe, very quickly. I'll add to it. I think the city's done a lot of work from the time that we were all elected to understand what the elected members want in terms of our role. It's a huge investment. There's obviously a lot that will be said regarding our product that we've got to offer when we bounce back from COVID restrictions whenever they're lifted. We've only got a finite bucket. But I urge the state government to think of the bigger events that the city could hold when they're thinking of spending their money. So we can only go a certain way. But I think this strikes a good balance. The Christmas Lights Trail being the signature event, as long as that's got some new attractions and is refreshed every year and it doesn't become stale, that's a good thing.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Do any members oppose this motion? No one wishes to speak against the motion. Councillor Angie.
I'm just speaking, I guess, in favour, but just noting one point I'm against, and just referring back to the deputation from Leslie Warren last week from East Perth Community Group in relation to Brass in the Grass not being featured in the events plan, and given that we now have a significant events budget and there's a substantial item later on the agenda this evening, that whether we could look to support that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, CEO.
Did you want the Acting General Manager of Communities to respond to that?
What a great idea,
question?
CEO.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor. The Brass in the Grass initiative was supported in 2021 through a local activation grant. That program will be available again in 2022 should East Perth Community Group wish to submit an application.
Thank you, Louise. Much appreciated. Yes, Councillor Gobbett.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. And along the same lines as Councillor Angie, do we have an opportunity, either through the mid-year budget review or through the annual process, the annual preparation of the budget, to capture an additional spend should it be requested through the neighbourhood activation process? The 90,000 that has been listed there, I think, from the deputation last week from Leslie, she said it was just not enough to cover what they would like to have done. But I'm mindful that we've arrived at the figures tonight through a lot of discussion, and so I don't want to upend any process that we've arrived at, but I'm just mindful of how we might capture additional costs if we're able to at a later stage, if it does eventuate that what they want to do is just not financially viable for them.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. CEO?
So the Acting General Manager, Community Development, please.
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor, yes, as part of the annual budgeting process, we can look at where there may be savings from other areas to bolster the offering in this plan, as well as a mid-year budget review, as we've done previously, and added new events to the plan.
So just to follow up, just to make sure it's clear, if through this process, if it eventuates that a group might need just a little bit more, is there a method that we can, or do we have any sort of oversight, or is there a way that we can respond to that quickly rather than it being the overall review of the overall program?
CEO?
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor, yes, there is opportunity, and I think the budget that has been put up is only proposed. The budget process hasn't been concluded yet. I feel there's more conversation to be had to finesse, so the budget has not been locked down as yet. So if there are other opportunities, you talk to the possibility of if there's a little bit more needed. Last year, the Brass and the Grass, which was delivered by the East Perth Community Group, was done so with a recommendation from that group that they could deliver, and they did a very excellent event for a $15,000 grant or an activation grant, which can be turned around very quickly. They would also have opportunity in the major events or the larger events budget to also draw down and seek a larger amount of money if they wanted to change and upgrade the event as well. So it's our belief that there are a number of opportunities available to our neighbourhood groups to develop and enhance events.
Thanks, CEO. So just for absolute clarity, if say the East Perth Community Group wanted $20,000, they have that opportunity to get $20,000 if they were able to demonstrate they could deliver.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Thank you, CEO. For the purposes of absolute clarity, is there anyone that wants to speak against this motion? Anyone else for the motion? Councillor Coe, anything you'd like to add?
I'm just a bit depressed. I can't attend most of these events.
Thank you, Councillor Coe. That's uplifting in its own way. Let's put this to the vote then. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, everybody. 12.2, event sponsorship 2021-22. That's right. So would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Councillor Gobbett, thank you. A seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Fleeton.
Got to say how good it is for the residents on Terrace Road, Lord Mayor. I know you love Terrace Road.
Certainly do.
I get very good feedback about this, and I've got an apartment and I got a free plant from it last year. I'm not too sure if I need to declare that. It died though, so.
Did it? Did you water it? Yeah, it'll just grow on its own. Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Is there anybody who wishes to speak against this motion? Anyone for? Councillor Angie.
Yeah, just to say it's a great event. I went along last year with my family, and I think it's something that is really, enjoyable for people of all ages, young and old, including my 3.5-year-old. And, when you look at successful garden events across the country and across the world, I know the Melbourne Garden Show is on at the moment, which is hugely popular. And, we think of things like the Chelsea Garden Show in the UK. So I think this is a fantastic event to have on our City of Perth calendar and just contributes to the diversity of the offer that we have.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. Councillor Coe, did I see your hand up? Okay, I might take this opportunity to say that the Free Native Plants were an election commitment from this Lord Mayoral candidate that free native plants would be given out to ratepayers of the City of Perth, and they were. So I'm glad, Councillor Gobbett, Councillor Fleeton, as a ratepayer, that you took advantage No, I'm not sure that it butted up a second year, but who knows? We will be in discussions, I'm sure. Thank you, everybody. Is there anyone that wishes to speak against? Anyone else for? It was opened up by Councillor Gobbett. Nothing, Councillor Gobbett. Put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Infrastructure and Operations Alliance reports. There are none here. So 14 Corporate Services Alliance reports. This is on block 14.1 monthly financial report for January 22. Also on block 14.2 schedule of accounts paid January 2022. 15. Item 15, Chief Executive Officer reports. 15.1, new Council Policy 1.8, Code of Conduct, Behavioural Complaints Management. Would anybody like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Can I get a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I support the officer's recommendation as it's written. I believe that the documentation that it pertains to is appropriately drafted, thanks to some amendments that came late. Having spent some time on the Local Government Standards Panel, I think that the powers and the scope with which we're seeking to act is appropriate in accordance with the regulations and not draining on our resources.
Thanks, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gobbett? Sorry, Councillor Fleeton.
It's the second time you've
Yeah, sorry, I don't know why. Yeah.
Compliment.
Both very good looking.
Thank you. He's far better looking than me. Very quickly, a big thanks to Councillor Gordon, because I know this came up in a committee meeting and she worked hard to suggest some changes and tighten this up. So we all do a lot of work outside of family and hours, and you saved us there, dare I say it. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Is there any member who wishes to speak against this motion? Anyone else for? Anything they'd like to say? Councillor Gordon? Now let's put this one to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thanks, everybody. We move to 15.2, 2021-22, that should be correct? 2021-22 annual report and annual financial statements. So okay, let's say that again. So 15.2 is 2020-21 annual report and annual financial statements. Would anyone like to move a motion to deal with this item? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Seconder, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gobbett? Councillor Gordon?
Just one comment, hopefully it can be changed administratively. It says I had perfect attendance, but actually missed a special council meeting, which hasn't been captured. My son was in hospital, so.
Okay. That amendment will be made, the CEO says. Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Squeaky clean. Do any members oppose this motion? This motion being unopposed, we'll declare that carried unanimously. And we move now to 16, the committee reports. On block is 16.1 Audit Report 2021-22. You got that right, Siobhan? Yep, 2021-22. Also, that's the only one on block. Okay. We move now to item 17, motions of which notice has been given. 17.1. Notice of motion, Councillor Angie, Lighted Up Part 3. Councillor Angie has submitted a notice of motion regarding Lighted Up Part 3. Councillor Angie, can I ask you to move your motion, and we'll ask you to reserve your reasons until the motion is open for debate.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. Just the motion is that the council requests the Chief Executive Officer to 1. Investigate opportunities for permanent light installations and welcome signage in the City of Perth, including but not limited to the Mounts Bay Road pedestrian bridge, buildings, monuments, streets, malls, laneways across our city neighbourhoods. 2. Investigate opportunities for the private sector to be engaged in the provision of permanent light installations across the City of Perth, including but not limited to initiatives like Percentage for Light, grants and sponsorship. 3. Investigate opportunities for permanent light installations to be delivered sustainably, including but not limited to solar power, and present these opportunities for consideration at an elected member engagement session in due course.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. Do we have a seconder, please? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Angie.
The reason for this notice of motion is that if we're going to be the City of Light, we need lights. While events are one way of celebrating the theme of City of Lights, they are fleeting. We should be celebrating light every day, and the only way to do this is with permanent light installations. From experience, we know that light installations are embraced and enjoyed by our city's residents and visitors. For example, the success of the East Perth Community Group's Tunnel of Hope light installation during COVID, the historic Hearts examples in Perth's East End, and most recently, we all went along to the launch of the City of Perth's East Perth Pedestrian Bridge. According to a Google search, in Paris, also known as the City of Light, there are over 296 illuminated sites from hotels and churches, statues and fountains, national buildings and monuments, and 33 of the 37 major bridges. Further, by engaging local artists in a program like this, we will help provide assistance for our creative sector, who, like many others, have had tough times through COVID-19.
Thank you, Councillor Angie. Councillor Gobbett?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. In support of Councillor Angie's motion, relating back to the lighting framework, I note that it is covered from my read of it on page 51 as an area where we might need to be focusing some light, as there are high pedestrian cycle traffic, medium risk of crime, and high need to enhance the prestige of that area. I note that from Councillor Angie's motion, this is just seeking to investigate opportunities, as we do all the time, as a local government, as an industry, to see what might come of it. It's not necessarily to say that we are committing an amount to do something at the point in time. I think this is really how we need to be operating typically, just generally, as a local government when we have new ideas that come to us. It helps kickstart that discussion back with the administration about what we might be able to do. So with the investigation into the Mounts Bay Road pedestrian bridge, we might see an option to light up one side of the bridge or two sides of the bridge. We don't know. Learning on some experiences in the east. Nonetheless, still a good lit up bridge. But I'd like to commend Councillor Angie for her motion and ask for my fellow elected members' support. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. I've got a couple of questions. Firstly, can I say that I welcome the motion from Councillor Angie and the spirit of the motion, and absolutely in concert with the theme of City of Light. I notice in response to the notice of motion, there's a couple of points here. One of them is that provision has been made in the existing city's long-term financial plan for an annual budget of $300,000 commencing in 2022-23 for aesthetic lighting. So, CEO, my question there is the spirit of what Councillor Angie has put forward in the notice of motion, do we feel as though it's captured by that or not captured by that?
Lord Mayor, if I could ask the General Manager Planning and Economic Development to answer that question.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Lord Mayor. We believe that the general intent is captured by the work that we're already planning. We do intend to come back to elected members anyway at a future EMES session to look at which potential projects elected members would like to prioritise for the aesthetic lighting program. So through that process we could discuss whether there's anything else council would like included, but pretty much the project that we've already got on the go does capture the sentiment or the intent.
Okay, I just want to follow up if I may, because I want to be absolutely clear on this. So I support the themes of what Councillor Angie is putting forward in the notice of motion, but if I'm understanding the answer correctly, we have the mechanism in place, and indeed a future EMES in place to deal with the same topics that this motion captures. Is that correct?
Correct, Lord Mayor.
Okay. Question, Councillor Angie?
I guess the notice of motion was quite specific. There was kind of three parts to it. So an investigation of lighting. So I understand there is a current investigation underway. I understand that now. But I also highlighted areas of delivery. So for example, how could we engage the private sector? How can we look at sustainable options? So was that already intended to be presented in the EMS? Was that already scheduled, that exact three, level approach?
So from the CEO to the GM.
through you, Lord Mayor, I guess we hadn't got to the point yet where we had decided exactly what we were going to present to elected members, noting that we will only spend time on that once council has made a decision to endorse the budget. If council wants to include the 300,000 in the budget, we will then commence work on bringing forward a scope to elected members. So certainly what's been raised in the notice of motion can be contemplated in that work. We just haven't got to that point yet.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fleet, is this a question I'm speaking for or against the motion?
No, speaking for.
Okay.
Couple of comments. I really like the idea for the percentage of light, so I'd like to see a paper presented on that sooner rather than later. We always talk about bigger ratepayers and other stakeholders and their enthusiasm for the City of Light, but I like this aspect of it because I want to see how that translates into tangibles. So by shaping what council wants out of this particular area, I mean, 300,000 won't get us far for a one light installation per year. So we're going to need our ratepayers to come up with ideas for us, and if we can incentivise by giving them more plot ratio or something like that, sure.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Anybody wish to speak against the motion? Anybody else wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Angie.
Thank you for the comments in support by the other councillors. I think it's good to know that an EMES session was already scheduled to consider lighting, but what this notice of motion does, it sets out clearly what we would like delivered at that EMES session, and that does involve the three different aspects of what the notice of motion is: the looking at the different ways, the different places and spaces we can light up, but also looking at private sector involvement and also looking at sustainability. There's, obviously considerable work in putting this together, this information together for us to consider. So I hope that my fellow councillors will endorse this notice of motion so that we can be presented with the full amount of the information at the engagement session and be able to make an informed decision.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. So we will now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thanks, Councillor Angie. We move now to 17.2, notice of motion from Councillor Angie. Free parking on Hay Street, West Perth. Councillor Angie submitted a notice of motion regarding free parking on Hay Street, West Perth. Councillor Angie, again, as per the previous, if you could move your motion, we'll ask you to reserve your reasons until the motion is open for debate.
Is it okay if I move a slightly amended motion after hearing the feedback?
Yep.
So my amended motion is in two parts. The first part being to support local business and neighbourhood vibrancy, that council endorses the extension immediately of the existing 1 hour free parking initiative on Hay Street, West Perth on Saturdays, currently from Emerald Terrace to Outram Street, to include the bays west all the way to Thomas Street. Part 2 of my notice of motion is now to support local business and neighbourhood vibrancy, that the CEO investigate the cost implications of A, the extension of the existing 1 hour free parking initiative on Hay Street, West Perth on Mondays and to Fridays, currently from Emerald Terrace to Outram Street, to include the bays west to Thomas Street. B, the extension of free parking initiative to Outram Street and Collins Street, West Perth on Saturdays. And C, the reduction of paid parking across West Perth from 8 a.m. to midday on Saturdays, and for the CEO to present this information for decision at the next council meeting.
Councillor Angie, can I ask you to pass that, if you don't mind, to the minute taker just behind you? I think that'll make the process easier.
Lord Mayor, if I could ask if we should just have a minute or two just to digest that.
Sure.
So I thought to say, if it's okay if we can vote on the two parts separately, so part 1 as one vote and then...
Yes, that could be done. Yeah. We'll wait for that to catch up. Okay. So, Councillor Angie, if you can just keep your eye on the screen and see if that's capturing the spirit of the motion with slight amendment.
Yeah, the first part isn't correct yet.
Okay. Councillor Angie, is that's still going? Okay. How's that going, Councillor Angie? Just changing the font.
Thank you, that looks correct now.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. Do we have a seconder?
I'm happy to second, but just still deciding.
Still processing?
Yeah, seconding.
Okay, seconding. So, do you want a little bit more time, Councillor Gobbett, before Councillor Angie goes through her
Yeah, just give us a minute.
reasons?
To make sure we got it all.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Angie, would you like to give your reasons?
Oh, sorry, there's just a typo created now. There's no part 3 that requests, that was in relation to part 2. That, just delete the 3 and just indent that. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Angie.
That doesn't make sense.
No,
Okay.
no.
Because you've got the CEO request to investigate the cost implications of the CEO to present this information. It makes sense.
And to present this information for decision at the next council meeting.
Oh, okay, then it's, yeah, so you want a part D then?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Angie.
Thank you. The reason for this notice of motion is simple. Currently there is limited traffic or pedestrian traffic in West Perth on weekends. On weekends I regularly see sections of Hay Street where there are no cars at all parked in the curbside parking. While there is currently 1 hour free parking Monday to Saturday in the 1 hour parking bays on a section of Hay Street, whereby customers will obtain a 1 hour no fee payable ticket, this initiative only extends from Emerald Terrace to Outram Street. The first part of my notice of motion is to extend this 1 hour free parking on Hay Street from Emerald Terrace to Thomas Street on Saturdays. As I said, on weekends I regularly see sections of Hay Street where there are no cars at all parked in the curbside parking. On this basis, it would seem that the cost of providing free parking in West Perth should be insignificant. and the administration report confirms this. I note at point 7 of the admin's report, it states that 1 hour paid parking is in place for the remainder of Hay Street from Monday to Saturday, and this has generated $59,000 in the current financial year, with 2.4% on Saturdays. Well, 2.4% of $59,000 is just $1,416 of revenue raised on a Saturday for the current financial year. Therefore, the total cost of part 1 of my notice of motion is only $1,416. While the cost of this initiative is modest, the potential benefits to the local businesses currently open on Saturdays is obvious. As stated by West Perth local representatives this evening, it reduces the cost of a Saturday coffee by $4. And the free parking in time may even encourage others to open on a Saturday, contributing to neighbourhood vibrancy for the apartment dwellers that live in Hay Street and beyond. I walked around West Perth in recent weeks and took note of which businesses are open on a Saturday. These are the ones I saw, and apologies if I missed any. Atlas Coffee Shop at 1238 Hay Street, open 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays. Jaffle Shack, 1220 Hay Street, also open 8 till 2 Saturdays and Sundays. Cavania Gift Shop, 1218 Hay Street, open 9 till 2 Saturdays and Sunday. And Mayfair News at 1200 Hay Street, open 10 till 4 on Saturdays. All of these are within the current free 1 hour zone. And then there's also Theory for Hair, open on Saturdays. Thank you, Dave, for coming in this evening, which is outside the current free parking zone on Hay Street. I hear continually that the cost of parking and the time limits on street parking is a barrier to people visiting our city. So let's remove this barrier where it's financially viable to do so. And I think a cost of $1,416 is financially viable. Times are tough out there, and any little thing we can do will make a huge difference to small business owners. I've added a part 2 to my notice of motion, taking on the feedback that we've heard this evening from West Perth Local. The reason I've split it up is we don't have the financial data to support these requests. I'm assuming that the earnings that we make are insignificant, given that there's no cars parked there, but it would be great to have the exact details from the administration presented at our next council meeting so we can make an informed decision and then comprehensively review parking in West Perth and provide further concessions.
Thanks, Councillor Angie. I've got a couple of questions, if I may. Firstly, CEO, the figure quoted there of $1,416. Does the administration accept that figure as accurate?
Could I ask the Acting General Manager Commercial Services to answer this and any further questions?
Through you, the Lord Mayor. Just wish to point clarity on that 59,000. Recently today we issued a CIBN regarding that number, and would like to point out that the $59,000 amount is actually all earned on a Saturday. The notice down there, point 7, missed the word Saturday, and I do apologise for that to elected members, but it's actually $59,000 has been earned on a Saturday in this current financial year up to the end of February.
Is that all of West Perth, or that's on Hay Street, or you should add some clarity there, I think?
Yes, through you, the Lord Mayor, that is $59,000 throughout all of West Perth.
On Saturday?
On Saturdays.
Okay. That's for the financial year thus far, is it?
That's correct, for the 8 months ending February 2022.
Okay. So what's that end up being, about $100,000? Okay, so there was a typo there, Councillor Angie, from what I'm hearing. Is that right? So to me, so this notice of motion I think arrived last Tuesday. Firstly, can I say I've got great sympathy for the people of West Perth. In fact, I've got great sympathy for everybody within the city of Perth. And we know that parking is an issue. However, this seems like a large body of work to kind of be comprehending on the run. And I note here a map on the CIBN that appears to show different parking in different areas, and we've now got a notice of motion that breaks that further into different parking arrangements for different areas. And I'm not confident that I'm going to comprehend that in the couple of minutes of debate here. And for me, it feels as though this is a little bit rushed, notwithstanding, as I said, support for the ratepayers in West Perth who have suggested tonight that this would be beneficial for them. So I'd perhaps like some options on how we might be able to consider this body of work, yet not rush it through tonight without, being able to see a map, see it highlighted, understand what it means, all of those sorts of things.
May I just ask a question? I've split it into two, so it's probably, with respect, Lord Mayor, it's not entirely complex. It's the first part's quite straightforward. Yes. So I'm just wondering whether complexity emerges from the part one.
Well, already we're hearing different amounts, so we'll see what other elected members think. But can I, just in response to the question, how might we be able to get all of the information back and then consider this properly? How might we be able to do that? GM?
Through you, Lord Mayor, there is an enormous amount of work in this area. We've got over 2,100 bays in the West Perth area, with over 480 of those bays doing services that aren't for regular paid parking. An opportunity to present all of that in a more detailed way to an elected member engagement session would give us everyone a fair grounding in that area. And I think it actually goes well to actually explain some of the problems as well that we're currently experiencing, because we're in a COVID time, which is something that I don't know if we've reflected on, because the numbers are significantly down in this area at the moment. For instance, before COVID hit, we were having 970,000 cars parking annually in West Perth, and the year just completed, it was down to 825,000. So there's some impacts on our business that I think we all need to consider before moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gordon, this is a question I was speaking for or against?
Administrative point. Firstly, the seconder hasn't spoken, but before we get to that, this is motions of which previous notice has been given, and the addition of part 2 is not an amendment to part 1. It's a whole new component to the motion, so it can't actually be brought because there hasn't been any notice.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So, is there anything to add to that, or are we noting that? Right, okay. All right. I'll take that on board for the moment. Councillor Gobbett?
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I agree with the intent of what Councillor Angie is proposing in the motion as the amended notice of motion, or call it that, seek pending alternate advice from governance. I wonder, just first before I continue on, I wasn't sure if we were allowed to refer to the information in the CIBN as it's issued under confidential on the hub. But if that second point under the current situation, the 59,000 has been discussed, so bring it up. What is the amount that we have foregoed, or is our forecast that we have currently already foregone in revenue from having the 3 hours free on the weekend? Are we able to get some advice just for comparison to understand that?
Yes, through you, CEO, to the GM.
Through you, Lord Mayor, we have 1 hour free parking areas as well available in East Perth and Claysbrook, and they are being activated, as well as the Hay Street West Perth. We also have 1 hour free parking out at Point Fraser car park, and we also have 3 hour free parking in our 3 major shopping car parks. Over the course of the current financial year, we're estimated anywhere between $4 to $5 million in foregone revenue from these free parking initiatives.
Thank you very much for that. I think just based on the information from the neighbourhood representative group this evening, and given that Councillor Angie is asked to put the two components of the motion separately, I'm more than happy to support the first part of the motion, and additionally also to the second part of the motion. I think it is absolutely important, as you quite rightly point out, Lord Mayor, that we need to be making fully informed decisions, understand the strategic implications of decisions that we make, and there is night and day between 59,000 being foregone and several million, as Mr. Ahern pointed out. I think it's worth understanding how that all works out. I'd like to be making consistent decisions in this chamber and basing that on the best information that I have. I think that it is important to get that information from the CEO before we start just waiving fees left, right and centre for everything that we do. Is it even in the best location? I don't know. I'm sure that the passion that the speakers have spoken with tonight is founded in fact, but I just want to make sure that I'm getting a fulsome response from the administration as well. Yeah. I suspect very much so that if it's only 59,000 to the current financial year, that it's probably not going to be too much, and that we could wear that or absorb that cost somehow as an operational matter of the city, find that cost somewhere else, take it off another project, for example. But it's just having the fulsomeness of that discussion that I think is important.
Mm.
But for the immediate future, if we can waive 3 hours free, if we can set hour free parking in some areas of the city, I think we can do it for this area of the city too. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Speaking for, against, or a question?
Moving a deferral motion.
Okay.
So if the wording of the motion can read, because I need to give a date, deferring the motion to the April OCM to allow council to review on-street free parking options across the entire city at an EMES before.
Do we have a seconder for the, thanks, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Fleeton? No debate on that, okay. Okay. All those in favour of the deferral? We have the Lord Mayor, Councillor Gordon and Councillor Fleeton. All those against? Councillor Gobbett, Councillor Angie, Councillor Code Governance.
You get the casting.
Okay, so deferred it will be then.
You have to say that
So I'm voting. So do I say that I'm voting again?
So
You tell me what to say.
As the Lord Mayor, if there is a draw, you have the casting vote, so then you can.
Yeah, so I'll use the casting vote then to defer that to the April
Ordinary council meeting.
ordinary council meeting. That's correct. Okay, thanks everybody. We move now to 18, matters for which the meeting may be closed. Moving to item 18, we'll move behind closed doors to consider the 3 confidential items on tonight's agenda. The live stream will be paused and I'll move a motion to close the meeting to the public. Do I have a seconder there, please? Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Could I now ask the public gallery to vacate the chamber and for the live stream to be paused? Thanks everyone for being here. I've got 3 here. Let me double check. Should it be Thank you. Do we need to wait till that's over? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we will. No one there? Thank you. So we move to item 19, our urgent business. There is none. So there being no further business, I will now declare the ordinary council meeting closed at 6:36 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody.
Could you all please rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr. Basil Zemplis.
Dinner on the 11th floor, everybody, please.